Hate crimes, the pain of racial bigotry.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation defines a hate crime, or a bias crime, as a criminal offense committed against a person, property, or society which is motivated, in whole or in part, by the offender's bias against a race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, or ethnicity/national origin.
One hate crime is committed every hour. 9,168 hate crime offenses were committed last year.
Now to the other news of this Wednesday night. We're going to begin with two teenagers from New York City charged with murder after police say they and some others targeted an Asian man, carjacked his Lexus, and then strangled him. It happened in Queens. Nina Pineda with the story. She's in the Whitestone section for us. Nina?
And Bill, you know what's so disturbing about this case is police blame the same group of teenagers and are charging them with a similar crime 2 weeks ago. They targeted an Asian male, allegedly. They choked him and robbed him, but he survived. David Cow, who worked here at the World Journal paper as a consumer news reporter and sales exec, did not. He was choked and beaten and left for dead.
Hate crime awareness has evolved significantly over the years, the most recent change coming in 2009. The newly proposed hate crime law now covers sexual orientation, gender identity, gender, and disability. The new proposal, however, does not include hate speech, which is protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution.
In 2008, 51.4% of all hate crimes stemmed from racially biased motivation. 72.6% of these crimes were motivated by anti-black bias. 17.3% of these crimes were motivated by anti-white bias. 3.4% of these crimes were motivated by anti-Asian bias. And 1.3% of these crimes were motivated by an anti-Native American bias.
Punishments for hate crimes vary depending on the state of which they occur in. Generally, however, punishments for hate crimes are much more severe than punishments for non-hate crimes. Hate crimes receive a harsher punishment because it becomes clear that the accused party had intent and organization behind the crime. In states that enforce the death penalty, a murder designated as a hate crime is much more likely to receive the death penalty due to the motivation, discrimination, and hatred.
Perhaps the most well-known example of a hate crime, slavery, was prevalent in the United States for a good portion of the country's history. Black people were originally brought to the United States on ships from Africa to work in houses and on plantations. Slavery was seen predominantly in the southern United States. It was not abolished until President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation into effect in 1863. Slavery is one of the most cruel forms of a hate crime in American history because the slaves were at the will of their oftentimes unjust, brutal masters.
Race riots, another form of a hate crime, have occurred throughout the United States in the 19th and 20th centuries. Examples include attacks on Irish Catholics and other immigrants, such as Italian immigrants and Puerto Rican immigrants, and the most infamous riots, the attacks on African Americans. The most well-known race riots are arguably the riots in the southern United States during the 1960s. Birmingham, Alabama, and Memphis, Tennessee were home to some of the largest and worst riots in American history.
After the Japanese bombed the U.S. Army base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, effectively starting World War II, all Japanese Americans were placed in camps known as internment camps. These camps were organized by the government, and they were two hate crimes as well. Based on these people's race, they were subject to confinement. The majority of these camps offered bad living conditions, tough working environments, little food, and even less money. These camps were a scar on the American government for prejudicially placing its own citizens in military confinement.
Hate crimes have plagued America as well as the world for as long as history can trace. We would like to believe that the more educated the public becomes, the more the hate crime rate will decrease, but this may be an all too optimistic dream. The world will always be harmed with prejudiced cretins who find joy and entertainment in harming people who are different. Hate crimes are a terrible thing. Accepting differences should be emphasized in the world.